Hello and welcome to Insights, where today we'll be discussing the application of cloud technology in the human resources field with Debbie Hirschlag, Vice President of Human Resources at the Silicon Valley software services firm Workday. Now, prior to Workday, Debbie helped lead the world's largest rollout of a core HR system in the cloud. Now, alongside Debbie in the studio, we're welcoming back Stephen Redwood, a principal with Deloitte Consulting. Now, Stephen, I'd like to know, is cloud technology disrupting the HR space, and if so, what exactly is driving that?
I think it's safe to say that it is certainly disrupting the space, Sean. I think maybe three things are particularly important to this. The first thing is when you think about the scalability of cloud operating in a multi-tenancy type environment, the economies of scale that companies can get from operating in that kind of space will have a dramatic effect on their business model. The implication of that, I think, is the second piece of this, which is that when you have the opportunity to change your business model and operate in different ways because of those economies of scale, you can start to rethink the way in which you structure the business and the way in which you allocate work around the organization. And then the third piece follows directly from those two, really, which is that when you start to move around with your business model and the way you organize business, that implies that people are going to do things differently. If things are being done differently, then you need to rethink the talent space too. So the potential impacts of moving to a cloud environment are really quite powerful.
So Debbie, it sounds like table stakes is that there is disruption with cloud technology in HR, but I'm interested to know what opportunities and challenges is that disruption causing in your field?
Certainly far more opportunities than challenges, but let me start with a couple of the challenges because I think people should be aware of them. I think first of all is that a lot of the purchasing decisions are made or certainly influenced by the finance and IT organizations and companies, and those organizations have traditional and long-term relationships with on-premise and ERP vendors, and it is sometimes hard for HR to get them on their side, especially when we're talking about cloud applications. So a little bit more influence and selling needed there. Secondly, I think there are a lot of companies right now that are saying that they're SaaS or cloud-based, and we kind of call them fake SaaS sometimes, because although they certainly are hosting the software and hosting your data, they haven't necessarily found a way to do seamless updates and functionality delivery, so that companies are sort of suffering through some of those bumps. So that's kind of a buyer beware situation. But on the positive side, many, many more things. I think cloud-based vendors are able to deliver new functionality or capitalize on new technology advances much more quickly, giving their customers those advances through software updates. Additionally, companies themselves, as their business change, reorganizations, M&A, they can respond more quickly through pretty easy configurations and changes in their own software that they can do without getting a lot of software developers involved and things like that. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, the back of most SaaS applications is pretty open, so you can integrate very easily to other applications that you have, both on-premise and off-premise, legacy or SaaS, allowing all your systems of record to talk to one another. In a true SaaS model, you are all on the same version, allowing peers at other companies to network about ideas that they've had, problems they're encountering, things that they're doing with their application of SaaS. Moving on from there, IT departments, they are typically pretty busy, and getting a SaaS-based application frees them from having to manage all the production and on-premise maintenance of that application. And then lastly, I think that users tend to adopt these modern user interface SaaS applications much more quickly, allowing companies to have a broader and faster adoption.
Well, thank you very much for that. And Stephen, I'd like to turn it over to you for your perspective on the market at large.
Yeah, I think Debbie's nailed it really, but I'd add maybe a couple of comments. One is around user adoption. I mean, that's a challenge because the way in which adoption needs to be approached, it changes as you move towards SaaS type environments. In traditional environments, technology adoption is over a long period of time. 6, 9, 12 months is not impossible. In SaaS environments, you've got a much tighter implementation cycle, so people have to adapt and adopt in much faster cycle time. So that's one challenge which is out there. Another consideration I think for some companies is you now getting companies who are moving into the cloud space by becoming providers themselves, and where they're starting to become companies that are offering a cloud service as opposed to just bringing one in-house. That can have a very significant implication for the way in which the whole business model operates clearly. And then Maybe finally, I just mentioned the security issue, which is, you've got companies who quite rightly have concerns to ensure that the level of security is at least equivalent, if not better, than the ones they can be sure that they have on an in-house type platform.
But I think there are some things that HR can do to make sure the implementations go well. I mean, there's a variety of things. Some things that come to mind. First of all, you're usually putting in a system of record. Granted, there are some niche applications in HR, but oftentimes we're talking about a core HR system of record which benefits the entire company. So if we position the project as a company project, something that will benefit the company and not just the HR function, I think that makes the projects go well because you get the sponsorship at the levels you need. Partnering with IT and finance, who benefit greatly from having this great, accurate, modern system of record, makes a big difference as well. And then also, I think making sure that the workforce, whether it's the human resources function, the managers, or the employees who will interact with the system, understand this new technology that they've been given, the value of having self-service access, and frankly, what's their role in keeping data accurate.
Well, let's pick up on that value thing that you just mentioned. So how are organizations measuring the value of a cloud implementation?
Certainly several things that make sense to me. First and foremost, if you believe that what you're implementing is going to add value, the speed of deployment and the speed of adoption of that deployment is pretty critical. I want my company up and live on that adoption as quick as possible. At Workday, some of our customers are literally implementing full systems of record, including maybe self-service, benefits, talent, even payroll in a matter of months, whereas a typical on-premise ERP can certainly take a year or more. Secondly, the user adoption that we just mentioned. And that adoption is typically from bottom to top. You've got HR people deep in the system, you've got managers working with their own data on their teams, and you've got employees themselves managing their own records, keeping their data fresh, doing benefits open enrollment, changing addresses, those types of things. Thirdly, very important, reduced total cost of ownership. HR budgets tend to be lean in a lot of organizations, and we're finding at Workday that our customers are saving 30 to even 60% on total cost of ownership of both purchasing the software, implementing it, and then ongoing maintenance and configurations and changes of that. Improved data integrity. I mean, I'm an HR person. Data is important to me. We have more people seeing data. You've got HR people in the records, you've got managers managing their teams and seeing that, and then you have the employees themselves that can look at their data and make sure, is my salary right? Am I titled properly? Am I in the right location reporting to the right manager? That all becomes very visible. And then I think last but certainly not least is the fact that because you have more access to data and better analytics and dashboards, that I think companies from top to bottom are making better decisions.
Thank you very much for that. Stephen, your perspective on the market?
The other way in which companies are finding value is the intrinsic value that people get from working with cloud technologies. So we're seeing employees, they're working with new technologies which are better suited to their expectations in the modern age, not some old traditional system that is constraining in many ways. It promotes an environment, where a culture of an organization which is with the times, intent on providing the latest and greatest technologies that could be available. And, that has knock-on effect for employee engagement. You can use that kind of information as part of your recruitment drive. Particularly younger candidates are going to be interested in hearing about that kind of thing as an indication, a kind of symbolic sign that this is a company that's kind of with it, up with the modern age, and they're not going to be working with some old antiquated type technologies.
Well, my last question is for both of you. We can start with you, Stephen. This way we don't get any thunder stolen here. And that is, if an organization wants to have a positive implementation process, what would be your recommendations to that organization?
So I don't think there's rocket science in this at all. It's probably the rules that apply to implementing cloud technology are the same that apply to implementing other technologies, indeed process changes, new organization structures, you name it, project planning. Program management is important, and that's, good program management starts with a proper assessment of what your needs. There are so many choices out there now, and understanding clearly both what you need and then matching that to what is being offered is clearly fundamental to being able to make a good selection choice. So that's step number one. Step number two is, having made the choice, it is communication. Clearly helping people to understand what the transition is about, why you're doing it, what it's going to feel like, how the journey is going to play out over time, what their expectations should be, is critically important. And then just having a good plan and picking the right people to put it in place is fundamental to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Less thoughts to you, Debbie.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I might add is really being careful about your vendor selection. With an on-premise or ERP decision, you basically buy the application, buy the software, and then you're off on your own, maybe with your implementation partner. When you're in a cloud or SaaS model, you have a partnership with that provider for a long period of time. They're giving you new functionality and updates. They're your support desk. They own your data. They're hosting your data. So you need to pick a partner that you feel like you can have a long-term good relationship with.
Going in for the long haul makes sense. So folks, thank you both very much for your perspective today.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we've been discussing the application of cloud technology in the HR field with Debbie Hirschlag, Vice President of Human Resources at Workday, and Stephen Redwood, a Principal with Deloitte Consulting. If you'd like to learn more about Debbie, Stephen, or any of the topics discussed on today's broadcast, you can find that information on our website. It's deloitte.com/insightsus.